Avada Kedavra.
Hey, excuse you. Oh my
Other one.
goodness.
Meet up the block.
Yeah, well, also apparently you can't block the
Can't
killing curse anyway.
dodge.
So, oh.
Avada Kedavra.
Just Mike wasn't on.
It's for the best.
Whoops. Yeah, so he tried to Avada you, not me.
Now the wand is pointing back at my rib.
Oh,
so,
oh.
Rip ski doodle.
Are
Hi,
you
Winnie.
you
Oh, he's
Voldemort
so
now?
sweet.
The cursing is rebounding,
Yep. Just bouncing back and forth.
making a Harry
Like
Potter.
Pong. How are you? Good morning.
Good morning. Good. We had our Thanksgiving week.
Dude, I had like a food coma today. I don't
We
even
had
know what happened.
eaten so
I went to
much
bed
turkey.
early and woke up late. I was just like,
Yeah,
I didn't feel that tired, but I did not wake up on my own.
and that's what food will do to you.
Yeah.
We
Pretty fantastic.
yeah, we
We
had
made
just
that-
a chill week.
Very chill week.
Jeff
It
made
was
the turkey,
lovely. It was really nice.
bunch of sides.
Yeah, made the foods up. Made the leftover casserole, which
Oh,
was
yeah.
an interesting process. Also made stock from our turkey carcass.
Mm-hmm.
Very delicious looking stock. I used it a little bit on rehydrating stuff, but I'm probably gonna freeze it because
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel like making soup today.
Yeah. It's I don't know, it keeps oscillating. I feel like it's freezing, but it's also nice and sunny. So I guess it's cold and sunny over here.
It's getting cold overnight.
Yeah.
Cold enough to like notice, but it's
Mhm.
still getting pretty warm in
Yeah,
the
because
day.
the heat
where
is going.
I'm taking walks and I'm still wearing shorts.
Yeah.
Shorts and sweatshirt, like a weirdo.
It's how you do it.
What can I say?
I don't know.
It's what I feel comfortable
It's
in.
the
walking.
style. If you wear shorts and
Yeah.
sweatshirts,
It's like
let us know in the comments down below.
it's weird.
No, yeah. So just chilled. We watched a bunch. I watched a bunch of TV.
Yes, did I?
I'm trying to think of what else.
Well, we finished Harry Potter.
We did finish Harry Potter, but that was before Thanksgiving, so we didn't get to. We watched an episode of How I Met Your Mother Thanksgiving,
Yes.
and also some Modern Family.
Yes.
Which starting from the beginning, season 1.
And we were thinking about holiday themed watch party for
Oh my gosh.
Psych.
Psych,
Because
yeah.
they do Christmas episodes.
My favorite is not to just talk about Psych now, but my favorite episode of Psych is the creepy one, that finale episode with the clock tower and whatever. That's like my favorite episode.
Yeah.
But I like the dark, weird episodes as well.
Yeah.
Like of anything, games, movies.
It's well earned in that show
Mhm.
because like most comedies that do serious episodes, it's well earned because you like the characters because not every day of their life is dramatic.
Mhm.
And then when it is dramatic, it's like,
It's
oh my
super
God.
serious,
Yeah.
and it's like, oh, okay.
That's right.
So this is something that I randomly saw. So Google recommends websites to me and like the Google like search page, and it's like, oh, so usually it's like games. There's like a lot of Xbox Game Pass stuff that pops up, and then this article popped up from this website that is a satire. It says Hogwarts celebrates record-setting year with only 4 students killed. I don't know if you can see it on the video, but it is that is Harry Potter with a dead Cedric
Haroldini
Diggory.
That's my boy.
Highland, Scotland. In response, both joyful and triumphant, students and teachers from the famed wizarding school celebrated the record-setting fact that only 4 students were killed at Hogwarts this year. So clearly a satire, but I also couldn't help but laugh at that.
Good timing. Feels like we should get into it then.
Yes, I think we should. One's ready.
Turn to page 209. The Unforgivable Curses. Today's lesson is called Tragedies. The chapter begins with our trio excited for their first Defense Against the Dark Arts class. Moody takes roll call and then immediately begins a lesson on the Unforgivable Curses. Ron offers the Imperius Curse, Neville the Cruciatus Curse, and Hermione the Killing Curse, Avada Kedavra. Moody unceremoniously performs these curses to demonstrate why they are unforgivable in the name of constant vigilance. Neville is shaken after class, and Hermione tries to comfort him, but Moody interrupts and invites Neville up for tea. Later, Hermione shares that she has started S.P.E.W, the Society for the Protection of Elvish Welfare, to fight the enslavement of House Elves. She invites Harry and Ron to join and declares their mission. As she does, Hedwig arrives with a response from Sirius, who insists on coming back to Hogwarts to help protect Harry.
S.P.E.W.
Spew! Spew,
Not
pew.
spew.
What's spew?
S.P.E.W. Like, okay, Hermione, that clearly says spew.
It says spew. You should rethink your
Oh
name.
my gosh. Yeah, one of the notes I wrote in that scene was, what do you think the trio each have for their own Clifton strengths? Because Hermione, she's like brilliant, but like marketing and like getting to that sort of like connecting those people relationship skills or whatever. Not so much. That's why you need a team of people. You need Ron to help you with that. Like, don't call it
Don't
spew.
call it spew. Yeah.
Call it something different.
Yeah.
It's a great, noble cause, good idea, but we need to be able to execute it with a better name. Oh my
Well,
gosh.
I mean, we can do them out of order
Yeah,
since we're
yeah.
on the elves. So I
Mhm.
feel like Hermione is very in touch with. We've talked about this. In fact, I think it was a couple of weeks ago. She's very in touch with her principles
Mhm.
of like recognizing something that she considers an injustice, even if other people don't.
Mhm.
Which is really a special quality because she is consistent. She's not somebody who just rides the next bandwagon of a cause to back.
Mhm.
She is like, I'm gonna make this because I think that this is wrong. It's really interesting. The whole journey with Spew is really interesting.
S.P.E.W.
I'm gonna call it Spew.
Uh-huh. Well, Ron has a line in there where I think it's before she like reveals what she's working on, and Ron
Yeah.
just says, "We've been working like house elves here," and I'm just like,
Yes.
"Oh my god, Ron! Like, can you not? Can you not
Yep.
like?" Just you know Hermione, you understand what's important to her.
Yep.
He probably forgot. Like, it's kind of like when you say something and you're just like, "Oh, should have," because he Ron does this multiple times in the chapter. The second being with the killing curse that
Yeah.
he's all amped about, and Harry clearly is not. And so Ron is like, just stops talking.
Well, it was it's kind of a master stroke to have Ron use what is ultimately like an idiom
Mhm.
and then say they like it, almost in the same breath. He's like,
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
working like house elves, which is a reference to their enslavement in essence. The only reason that makes sense is like that they're worked to the bone. They work too
Mhm.
hard.
Mhm.
And then in the same breath, he's like, oh, they like it.
Mhm.
And that
He
is the
doesn't see it
hypocrisy
as
that
inconsistent
Hermione
though, yeah.
is pointing out. He does
Mhm.
not see it as inconsistent because he
Mhm.
doesn't view them as equals to wizards.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or not even equality isn't even the right approach. He doesn't think that their uh situation is
That there's an
a
issue.
problem at all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he doesn't see it that way.
No.
And that's part of what we discussed of like, okay, this is just normalized in the wizarding world. And like the way it's normalized is not just the act itself, but like the justification, the feeling of it, like, oh, all parties are happy, like there's no problem here. Like everyone
And
gets
the
something.
saddest irony of it is that the Weasleys don't have a house elf.
Yep.
So like in some dark sense as well, he's making a comment on like his own mother and the response what this work is, what house elves do, that like it doesn't matter. You don't need to pay them or whatever. Like they love it. They like it, right?
Mhm.
But they're doing it under the pressure of magical compulsion. They have to do it. So it would be like, well, would you do that to your mother, right? That's the Imperius Curse. right? Of like they forced to do something, whether or not you want to do it.
Yeah, it's interesting because so like oftentimes on this podcast we talk about a lot of like very foundational, that's the word I keep coming to, these foundational discussions about how a society works, what are the like dominant discourses, what's accepted as normal, like how things structure or govern a society. And a
hmm
lot of that has to do with like the stories we tell and what basically what's acceptable. Um and that's something that it's really hard. So as we know, it's really hard to tackle all of the problematic ways things get enacted in a society. Like we know this from, being on the internet for so long now and being fatigued of trying to do something about
Doom
everything. Like,
scrolling.
yes. And so it's very admirable for, although I would like to know how Hermione is, you know, as an
As a
adult.
politician.
Yeah, as an adult and like the leader of the Ministry of Magic when she's older, of like dealing with it, because she obviously like has, I mean, the fact that she can focus on this and like carry through is, as you were saying, it's pretty impressive of like being able to actually
Oh,
put something to action. Like
yes.
there's, and
Yes.
it's really hard to do.
It's
So,
it's extremely hard. And if you want to compare
and by
Hermione
herself too.
to people in our world, like that's very, very rare.
Mhm.
Much less rare would be somebody who hears about S.P.E.W and says, "Oh yeah, I agree," and then does nothing.
Yeah, yeah.
That's extremely common.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fascinating storyline in this book, and it's gonna keep coming up, which is exciting for us because it gives us this touch point. I think your point of foundational stuff like comes up again with Moody. So if on the
Mm.
spew side, it's like a foundation of a society that tries to be consistent in its principles, to implement principles across the board and find consistency, build
Mhm.
it. You have to make consistency. You have to search for your inconsistencies and hypocrisies, and you have to change them. And
Mhm.
that's what spew is about. Another one that we've talked a lot about is telling the truth. And
Mhm.
this is the hill I will die on. Like you have to be honest. And this is what Moody is saying.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh man. I definitely wrote a lot of things for Moody.
hmm Of course, the dark. Yes, there's
It's
a
so
deep
confusing because
irony.
I'm like,
Yes.
I'm reading it now and I'm just like,
Yes.
because remember at the end of last chapter, I was paying attention to the words he was saying to Draco and everything, and
Oh, his look at
and
Harry,
now
his look
I'm
at
just like, yeah,
Neville.
and so now I'm like, yeah, but even this like the verbalizing like, "Oh, you need to know,"
Yeah.
like, and I'm just like, "Oh my gosh," like
Oh, yes.
I don't know how to react to this right now because I mean, I also agree with him. Like, I think that
Yep.
the adults around Harry, I mean, we've said this ever since book one, the adults around Harry in their like ways of protecting him, in their efforts to protect him, or what they say they're doing is to protect him, is I mean, in hindsight, like I mean, it's not even in hindsight. It's because we see Harry as a full human being. Like we are Harry, like we are the person, we are him going through life. And so we have that the cool thing about reading the books in or any kind of like piece of art that puts you in the perspective of somebody else. Like that's what you're able to be like, "Wait, no, why are you treating him this way? Why are you like not telling him things?" And
hmm
so I'm like all on board with fake Moody being like, "Hey, yes, Harry deserves to know. Can you stop like treating this, especially I mean, the gravity of all of this with the unforgivable curses. What I found really important is that even though so the way that they're described is like, okay, the most heavily punished by wizarding law, the curses that are most heavily punished by wizarding law. So they're important, like they are distinguished as like these three curses are terrible.
Yeah.
And even though they're unforgivable, they're each one of them has an actual connection to the students in that classroom.
Right.
Like a real like consequential connection to students in that classroom. So it's not I was thinking about our very early conversations about what do we teach and why. And so like there's this sort of like practicality that is in this lesson of like this practicality in a very kind of sobering way of like this is real. Yes, they went through a war. And yes, like they're like you would like to think that this doesn't happen outside of extreme circumstances, but that just is not true. So
Yes.
let's just face it.
Well, what's interesting, you said there's connections in the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny because it's the Imperius Curse that stands out to me. So we have the Avada Kedavra, and Harry's relationship is apparent.
Mm-hmm.
Neville, we will learn, has an incredibly intimate relationship with Cruciatus Curse,
Mm-hmm.
as does fake Moody. But the Imperius Curse, it feels the weakest of being like, oh,
Yeah.
generally the ministry.
That's
But
why it's first.
you
It's
know
like,
what?
oh,
In the
hey.
classroom, who is dealing with it? Who has the most to say about that is fake Moody.
Mm.
He was Imperious for years.
Mm.
Years he was Imperious. And he says like you can fight against it, and it takes a great strength of character and all of this.
Yeah.
And it's very dark. Not because that's the most slippery one, because as we learn his backstory, it's like it's such an interesting story because he is evil, yet protected by love, is freed,
Oh.
and all of this stuff happens.
Darn it, love.
It's yes, it's really phenomenal.
Well, the way that it's like,
Hiddenness to
yeah,
it.
the way, well, even so touching on that, I mean, we'll probably go more in depth when we get to the explanation of
Some
his
200,
his
400 pages
his
from now.
story later, but like you can have the same. What I love is like going in multiple directions with the same thematic element. So we're talking about love. In Harry's case, very extreme. Mother's love protecting him from death, sort of thing. And then in this other case, like love is used in a different way. And then in a different case, which we'll see with love potions, love, or like what we say is love. And so we can argue about like, oh, this is the purity of what is the purest of the love, and like what is real love, what is not love.
Yes.
But it's all the way that we conceptualize it is with the same word, right? So like how you can play with that in a variety of different shades in this like world that she's made. And that's, I think, what makes it feel so real is that you have all of these
Agreed.
shades.
And so I was thinking about two different things as I was reading this section. One was, well, essentially they're the same thing, but why these three curses and not others?
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is really, really interesting. And we've touched on this before, because I think we could discuss and expand.
Like obliviate.
Yes, obliviate for sure. We could it's on a spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
So there are other illegal curses. There are other illegal uses of magic
Mm-hmm.
that don't necessarily rise to this category.
Yeah, where it's like, do not
unforgivable
touch
curses.
it at all.
Yes. What we'll see that's also interesting is like, but these curses get used by people who don't go to jail.
Harry Potter.
Yes. So there's something interesting there. Can we defend his uses of the Imperius Curse in the pursuit of destroying Horcruxes? I don't know if we can defend
the
it.
Cruciatus Curse.
Cruciatus Curse on Bellatrix, sure.
Well,
revenge.
and also on Caro.
Sure.
Spitting in McGonagall's face. Like
Yeah.
that seemed more like a, because I remember that scene when I read that
dark.
in the book, I was like, I freaked out because I was like, not only did Harry use that, but
In front of everyone.
McGonagall also used Imperio.
Mm.
It was just like two
Yes.
unforgivable curses in the same
Suddenly they're
scene.
not
And I was like,
unforgivable.
oh
Right.
gosh, yeah.
So this is a principal question as well of like, well, okay, these are legally unforgivable, but do people morally think that they're unforgivable? Not clear.
Mm.
maybe no is the clear answer. No, they don't think that they're unforgivable. There
Mhm.
is a sense of like righteousness, righteous use of these things. Of course, we should get back into Avada Kedavra
Oh
in
my
3 years
gosh.
from now because
In
Harry
3
doesn't
years.
use it, which is also interesting.
Yeah.
Um, and then I was also thinking about the degrees here of like confundus. So what is Imperius? It's like a complete loss of self-control,
Mhm.
magically induced behavior. Well, you have confundus. You also have love potions, right? Is that
Yeah.
an unforgivable potion? They have different strengths. So there's very, very interesting questions here about how do you do a legal system
Mhm.
where you have degrees of a kind.
Yeah, what's interesting is also so now as you're talking, I'm thinking about um also the challenge or like the you need to be powerful in order to cast these spells.
Mm.
And because Moody even says, if you all pointed your wands at me and said Avada Kedavra, like maybe
Nothing would
the worst that
happen,
would happen would be a nosebleed. Like
right?
it's not like
To execute it.
mm-hmm.
Hmm.
So there's something about like like where does the magic come from? Which I know we've asked this question before, and
You
I'm
have
not
to
I'm
mean it,
not gonna
Harry.
touch it. I mean, that might be actually a huge
Mhm.
topic for Hogwarts Legacy of where does
Yes, it will be
magic
for us.
come from,
Yes.
like within, and like where does it like how does it get enacted in that in some sort of powerful way? Because like it's not that all of the witches and wizards just learn the spells and then like they all do them equally. There are some wizards that are more powerful than others, like Dumbledore and Hermione. Like they are clearly more powerful and it comes from somewhere. And we can talk about like, yeah, maybe it's studying, maybe it's, practice or whatever. Maybe it's just natural talent, but like where does that come from?
Both.
And then there's also this idea, although I don't know, this is not necessarily dark magic. Is it dark magic?
But
So when we talk about magic and like this idea of dark magic, like that seems to come going back connected back to where does the magic come from? It seems to be dark magic is categorized separately because it probably comes from a worse place, wherever that may be or however that gets,
but that label in and of
manifested.
itself is troubling because
Mm.
it's not clear. Are these curses all dark magic? Making a Horcrux, I think we could argue in a different light
Yeah.
as being dark magic.
It's weird because
Maybe because it requires a murder.
there's sort of like also thinking about like the restricted section, so going off of
Mm.
that. Um m- Magic is so I'm also looking at Zax's comment about Sectum
I had
Sempra.
the same thought for Cruciatus, that it's on the same spectrum of inflicting pain onto another being.
Uh-huh.
Cruciatus is unforgivable. Would Sectum Sempra is
Well,
not.
part of what's messy is that you have to think about the historical context. Like spells get created. Snape created that Sectum Sempra.
Yes.
So, like, in terms of cataloging, categorizing, updating, we know that the wizarding world is not good at updating. So, like, thinking about that, like, there's something also about. I wonder when those spells were created. I guess is like the
Yes,
short, the
sure.
short
Great
point
question.
to what I'm trying to say
Yeah.
is that
Who made them?
and also in our previous like explorations of ancient magic and like there's time that goes with thinking about magic and how that changes over time and then trying to fit that in within a society and make laws that govern around what magic is acceptable, what magic is widely used and all of that.
Exactly. I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. And I think to some extent that the exploration that we're having is morality and especially legality as being
Mhm.
man-made. We
Mhm.
make them,
Yeah.
and so they change. So because they need to be responsive to other changes as well. It's hard to have, even if you do have a consistent principle, how do you apply it to new situations? This is
Mhm.
what the Supreme Court does, applying
Yeah.
existing things to new situations.
Yeah.
It's an incredibly difficult discussion. I was thinking about, you said who invented them, and I was trying to remember, like, I think going back. The only thing I can remember is that somebody the Fowl was the first guy who made a
Oh,
Horcrux.
yeah. No. Yeah.
And it
No.
was a long time ago. It was like,
Uh-huh.
I think before the
That
founding
name
of
sounds
Hogwarts.
familiar. Someone, yeah, I don't
I
remember
can't
his
remember
actual name.
the
It's
full
something
name.
the Fowl. Yeah, I do
Something the
remember.
Fowl, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a great question, because could we not conceptualize of, like, okay, what about the spell? Yeah, so there's also these weird in-betweens, right? Because Avada Kedavra is one person to one person.
Mm-hmm.
Wormtail kills 13 people with one spell, right? This is the difference between
Yeah.
stabbing somebody and
Right.
bombing a
Yeah.
building.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, what's going on there?
Well, yeah, so then you have, like, spells that are
Yes.
used. I mean, there's, like, the okay, you shouldn't kill people.
Yes.
And then there's, the, like, these are kind of they're held separate.
Which is this is what's happening that's weird, is what the 3 unforgivable curses fail to do is separate means and ends. That you're saying that they're coupled together. There is no good use
Mhm.
of these spells, but we know that some of
Yeah.
our heroes
Oh,
use these
man.
spells, so that's not quite true.
I wonder if, like, because they require you to be such a powerful witch or wizard, that, like, they're held to a higher standard. Like, the people who
Mm,
have the power to do these specific
yeah.
spells should never use, like, they are so powerful, the people themselves, that they should, like, this is like a whole different category where it's like, okay, if you are this powerful, you have a responsibility to, like, not inflict control harm, and otherwise it's like, I don't know, like, what would prevent someone from just, like, controlling all of wizard kind, torturing them or killing people that don't obey, you know? Maybe that's part of it as
I mean,
well.
there's so much to unpack here. It's really phenomenal. I think
Yeah, for the
my
most part,
mind,
I've been, like, taken as given as, like, yeah, these are the unforgivable curses. This is probably one of the first times I've actually in depth asked all of these questions about how does it work, why.
I'm not opposed to them being unforgivable curses. Like, in
Mhm.
my reflection on them, I'm like, oh, I understand.
Mhm.
But then you have to not forgive people for using them. You can't only not forgive some people's use of them,
It
then
should
they're no longer unforgivable curses.
rename them unforgivable except for Harry
Sometimes
Potter.
forgivable,
Sometimes
yeah.
forgivable
Rarely
spells.
forgivable. Which is ultimately, like, is the point of having a legal system to make it more uh nuanced
Mm.
and say, like, well, what were the circumstances
Mhm.
under which this was used?
Mhm.
Um, do they have a civil court?
Well, so the the Avada
Kadagra
Kedavra has no
remedy.
counterspell.
Right. That's right.
So maybe, I mean, I could absolutely see that being, I mean, that the finality of that, I think, is
Fantastic point.
it's also in part why I don't think Harry, even though he uses the other two, he doesn't use that one. Like, I mean, this actually goes to another point that I wrote, is that the connection, Harry and Neville are deeply disturbed by the lesson.
Would Neville use the Cruciatus Curse
I don't think so.
in the same way that Harry
Ever.
wouldn't use the Avada Kedavra Curse?
And they have, it's kind of like
But Harry uses the other one.
we haven't seen them yet, the Thestrals.
Yeah.
Um because that the whole conversation about that is that, you know, after this book, like, Luna and Harry, like, can see them because they've seen death. Like,
Mhm.
you have a different relationship with the thing itself if you have some sort of experience, even though it's tangent, it's like family members. And so that's why, like,
We
when
are experiencing this as right
yes,
now as a
yes,
society
yes,
constantly.
yes.
Yes.
But that's why after the lesson, all the other kids are like, that. Well, I mean, Hermione's not, but
Even
she's very
Ron.
empathetic. But
You see
like,
how it just snuffed it right there,
yeah,
and then
like
he's
they were
like, "Oh,
so
oops."
like they were like, oh, this is so cool. And the way that Harry in his head describes it is like, oh, like they saw a show or something. Like, but part of it is that
Everyone laughs. She makes a point in the chapter of saying everyone laughs at the Imperius Curse
yeah, with
when
the cartwheels and
right.
stuff.
Moody doesn't
He
because
does
he
not.
experienced it. It's
Uh-huh.
not funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, this
Yeah.
is not funny.
Yeah.
But he uses the Cruciatus Curse and the Imperius Curse.
Yes.
Uh, yeah, it's I mean, there's so much going on. It
There's
really
so
is.
much just in like a tight little
Yes,
paragraph. It's
yes,
like, oh
yes.
my gosh.
Especially as people who have read the books, being able to reflect on what
Uh,
exactly is going on. Because
mhm.
as of right now, we basically only know Harry's story. It's parts of it, the
Yeah,
Avada Kedavra part.
we
We
know
don't
why it's
know
important.
we
We
don't
don't, yeah.
know
Neville,
Neville,
no.
and we don't know fake Moody.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Which just reminds me that J.K. Rowling, you have to write non-linearly. She's clearly not a
mm,
gardener. She is an architect. And those are the two
mm,
models of writing.
mm.
She, in the sense of like she clearly she may garden for a while, but eventually she goes back and writes this type of chapter, knowing who is who and who will bring up who what and who will react how.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
intentional
Yeah, it's incredibly
for
intentional.
sure.
And when I don't do we find out about No, we don't find out about Neville's parents until next book. I think. Order of the Phoenix. Because they go to St.
The
Mungo's.
uh-huh.
They go to St. Mungo's because Ron's dad gets attacked. And that's when they see Lockhart again and they bring him back. And then they see Neville because
Lockhart.
it's the holidays. And Neville is visiting his parents.
Lockhart. Oh, little Neville. And he doesn't want to tell them.
No.
I love Neville. He's just a little buddy. And
Yeah.
Hermione's so nice. She's just like, she knows that something's
Yes.
wrong.
And also Harry is also nice because he's like, that was a very tactful way of
yeah.
like, he's not complimented a lot. That's something Lupin would have done. And I'm like, yeah, except this guy is a Death Eater.
I just want I just want to yeah, that part is funny too. Like thinking about
That's the
what really is
backdrop. It's
happening.
so
Yeah. Yeah.
good.
I
Yeah.
want to go back in time and just like be if I could time travel, time turner and go back to little young Neville and be like, "It's okay, Neville. One day you'll be an herbology professor at Hogwarts. Like just keep on
Keep
trying."
on trucking, buddy. You're going to destroy a Horcrux.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It's a
Yeah.
lot. I mean, it's a lot.
One thing that I did enjoy in this chapter is Draco is not in it. Thank
Yes.
goodness.
Compared to the movie.
Yeah. I mean, oh yeah, the movie was slightly different,
It's the
especially
Slytherins and
because
Gryffindors.
Hermione raises her hand in the book.
Yes, she does.
And in the movie it's
She says
very
Avada
and
Kedavra.
yeah,
Yeah.
she says it
In the
and
book.
all the rest are like, "Oh."
Yeah.
And in the movie, Moody is more into fake Moody is more intense. It's just like, "Oh gosh, this is terrible." But yeah, unforgivable curses. Don't
And
do
then
them.
the final bow on this is the continuation of our conversation of educational preparedness.
Oh yeah.
Because Moody refers to this and says, well, usually you wouldn't hear about these until 6th year. So there's this split,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
In essence, post Owls is like grad school, which is, it reminds me of it, where people are like, oh, well, there's no topic now that you can't discuss. You have to discuss it now. We're not waiting anymore. But it's an arbitrary line. It doesn't make any sense. Like, it doesn't make any sense. But then I'm like, well, yes, but should first years learn about the unforgivable curses? Like, I don't know. Sometimes I
You're
feel
gonna
like
spawn
yes.
a bunch of
But then
Tom Riddles being like,
but
"Oh,
then you can
let
just
me."
push it back constantly. Well, should they learn about them before? Should it be like,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, so it's another spot where like
Yeah.
coming up with some kind of principle is very difficult.
Well, part of it also, so thinking about the context around Moody, like ignoring the fact that it's not the real Moody right now, that Dumbledore brought him in specifically for 1 year. And then we see a little kind of nod at the end with Sirius being like, yeah, there's something going on.
Well, I love that too, because they make up the They make up the divination homework.
Oh my god, that was
And then the
hilarious.
whole stuff with Sirius is about reading the signs. Because it's like, Dumbledore must be reading the signs. I'm reading this. There's been a number of things to be paying attention to.
Yeah.
And it's like,
they're
oh,
just
yes.
like,
Okay, good.
yeah.
That's
Mars is
that is
in,
what divination is about. Yes.
but
Mars.
all of this is like something is going on. Harry is upset, and I'm just like, Harry, I just can't with you sometimes. Like although I do understand he doesn't want to be like seen as there's something wrong with him. He's fine. He's just trying to have a good year with no drama, no anything. That's all he's trying to do. Yes, Wormtail got out last year. We're gonna like ignore that and just try to push it off, push it away. The Triwizard Tournament is here. I'm just trying to have a good year as Harry Potter here. And no, he's like, okay, also Sirius. You're like, if it happens again, tell Dumbledore. No, Sirius, you tell Harry Potter right now. Go tell Dumbledore right now. There's no time to wait. Why are you being semi-cautious? Come on, follow through. But yeah, there's a lot going on in the background.
How much energy do you still have? Can we go for a couple more minutes?
Yeah, I have more energy.
The last thing that was rolling in my brain was the relationship, because we've been talking a lot about the Department of Mysteries, as we do
we
off-camera,
often talk about the Department of Mysteries
and trying to figure out what the deal is. It helps with my writing, but it also helps with other things that we're working on.
Yeah.
And I was trying to connect the 3 unforgivable curses to rooms in the Department of Mystery. That like somehow they affect something. It's the essence of self, like first rule. Big consequences, right? We know Avada Kedavra clearly connects to the death room. Imperius, I think, connects to the brain room in an obvious way. It's about control over your own actions, consciousness, unconscious cause, that type of. Yes, it's very dark. I couldn't really find a Cruciatus one, and it's interesting to me because it's also the one that I have the biggest problem with being an unforgivable curse, because inflicting pain happens with all sorts of curses and jinxes and hexes all over the place. And so like that's the most difficult one for me to deal with, because there's but and then I was also thinking Confundus for Imperius, as we talked about. But then like other things that are unforgivable, that's where the love potion came up for me as well, of like, well,
yeah, I think that the love potion thing seems like it's Imperius more, but I also feel like, so when I think about torture, it's not just pain. Like it's like a very, very specific and malicious pain that you are inflicting on somebody.
And yet wizards use Dementors.
Yeah, so there's Dementors, there's Boggarts even, which are, I mean, it's I guess like it's not that you would hide a Boggart. Would you hide a Boggart anyway? Anywhere? I don't know. Like, cuz we've only seen them in the context of, well, we've seen Dementors like not in the context of classrooms, but the Boggart has been a teaching tool or something. Like I don't really know.
Well, I mean, yeah. And to also touch on Dementors, it's interesting because I think Dumbledore and his relationship with the use of Dementors is not dissimilar from Hermione and House Elves, of like this sort of, where is the consistency?
Yeah.
Because Dumbledore, if we know, I think we already know from the 3rd book, is an advocate of not associating with Dementors and definitely not using them
for Azkaban
as wizarding prison guards.
Yeah, so I think, we can also
torture people.
Yeah, we can see Hermione also coming through of like, she's a change agent. Because like she takes over, well, she doesn't immediately take, does she immediately? Nobody knows if Hermione's actually, when Hermione becomes minister.
Yeah.
It's not like a specific, like, this is the inauguration date or whatever.
This will just be me. I was always disappointed that Hermione became Minister for Magic and not headmistress of Hogwarts.
No, I feel, but McGonagall was there. Like,
yes, but she's super old. I mean, later.
Dumbledore also is super old. You have to like.
Okay,
I
so
imagine
you think maybe
that
after
as like
her
Yeah,
time as
after
a
she's like
okay,
done
this
being a
is satisfying
minister,
to me.
I think
Okay.
she will become
Yes,
headmistress.
fantastic.
I think that you can't oust McGonagall.
Why can't we have any young professors? Oh, Neville.
You
Okay.
had Lockhart-ish. Oh,
Mhm.
well, yeah, Neville. Neville's young. Maybe I don't know. It's
I'm
really
just joking.
hard to have people leave if they. I mean, McGonagall specifically, I will defend because that like Hogwarts is like literally. Hello, Winston. Hogwarts is where she loves the most. Like McGonagall's story. If you haven't read it on wizardingworld.com, go read it.
Yeah,
She belongs at Hogwarts, and I will let Hermione be headmistress after.
fine. But is it's Hermione is a phenomenal person because we will learn and Dumbledore will talk about Harry's moral center.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, we're seeing it from Harry's perspective, so maybe we get more insight into the darkness within.
Yeah.
But Hermione seems to be the most unwavering person
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to having a moral center,
Mm-hmm.
which
I
is
agree completely.
it's
That's
not
why
clear why,
Hermione is the
right? Because
best.
I was going to say like Hermione is Dumbledore reincarnated, except for she's not tempted as much by like any of these pursuits of power.
Yeah.
Because Dumbledore even says like, "Oh, I didn't want to ever become Minister for Magic because I can't be trusted with power," as
Yeah.
though Headmaster is somehow not as powerful.
Well, Hermione's interesting being Muggle-born because part of her, like at the beginning, it's like, oh, she just wants to fit in, but I think if I think about her in a slightly different way, of like, I think she believes that she's lucky and gifted to be able to use magic at all. I mean, being in a family that can't use magic, that I think she does hold this like high sense of responsibility and like
I
I
agree.
need to
But a lot of
be
her moral
responsible with this.
center is irrespective of magic,
Yeah, I mean,
which
part of
is
that is
really
I think
interesting.
that she just is.
Right.
She just probably is a good person
Yeah.
in general. If I were to put a label on anyone, although she does Veritaserum some
The
people without
luckiest
their
thing
knowledge in Wizards
of
Unite.
all of Harry Potter is
Uh-huh.
that Hermione Granger is a first-year Gryffindor in the same year.
Yeah.
Who else is going to do it?
Nope.
A lot of people could be wrong. I don't see any other Hermiones walking around.
That is accurate. Dear Ron, a lot of people can be you.
That's what I'm saying.
Not a lot of people can be your wife.
Yeah. I don't know what to say.
Oh, that's so
But
funny.
as far as what happens in the story, yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, on
On
that
that
note,
note.
yeah, we stand for Hermione. Until next time,
Juan's
Juan's ready.
ready.